Okay, so radio itself today, I think it's a whole different type of medium for especially kids today. You have so many devices. You have your phones, you have all these other things that you can do to get music. And I think radio, I think maybe today's generation, they're great, but at the same time, I think they forget the relevance, the importance of radio. So if you go all the way back, I mean, to when radio first started, that whole idea of connecting countries, connecting world, basically, because all of a sudden now you can hear something that's happening in Europe and it's coming on as radio waves all the way to the United States, whereas before you had to wait till it came in the paper days, through telegraph or whatever.
Right.
So I think the first part of radio, the most important part for us is when they had old radio programs. Like I like Gildersleeve. I love Lucille Ball. She started out on radio, My Favorite Husband. So you got to go back to then, and what people used to do, they would have a radio, and if their neighbors didn't have a radio, it would be sort of like a radio hour. They get together, they'd sit around looking at the radio and listening to the radio programs. A lot for the kids that they loved. Orphan Annie was a big one, if you ever watch Christmas Story. And so they just sit there looking at the radio, listen to the radio programs, and it was everything from mystery to drama to sci-fi to soap opera. And that led into everything that we're going to have coming into the 50s when TV and television started, and a lot of those stars from radio came over to TV, especially the comics. Some of the great comics like Milton Berle and people like that starting in vaudeville and radio. So radio, I think people forget the importance of it. And now another thing that was really big to us, 1960s, especially 60s and 70s, I cannot imagine almost every kid, all right, would ask for a transistor radio. Oh my God, a little square box, probably the grandfather to the iPods and all of that stuff. But the transistor radio, oh my God, this little thing, square box, and you'd listen to AM and FM, and the reception was always not that great, but nobody cared because it's like, I'm the cool kid, I got transistor radio. And it took like the 9-volt batteries that you put in, the little square ones that you had to put in there. But I can't think of anybody who didn't at least one time have a transistor radio, the grandfather to the iPods and everything. You couldn't program anything in it. You just listened to the local radio stations. And that's how important radio stations were. You found your favorite one, and that's what you listened to. So I sort of feel sad in a way for kids today. They're missing out on something that was so important. Because today it doesn't have the same, just don't think it has the same excitement, the same meaning that it's a big deal, especially those things.
Could you tell me a few emotions, like a few of the emotions you felt first time listening to the radio? Could you remember that by any chance?
Well, first time listening to the radio,
because it was
I would have been a little kid. The thing is, and there's songs that I would have heard. Okay, and I probably heard this on the radio, and I must have been like 5 years old. I was living with my grandparents, and it was a song, "These Boots Are Made for Walking" by Nancy Sinatra. And that's when the girls wore mini skirts and white go-go boots that came up to their knees practically. And I must have heard it on the radio because it's like, these boots are made for walking, and that's what they're going to do. And one of these days, these boots are going to walk all over you. And so I came home from school, and that's all I did for days and days. And I said that song again and again. And when my grandparents were alive, they told me, they said they got so sick of that song. They wanted to practically gag me or something, because it's like, all I do is go, you. And I can't imagine that I might have seen it on TV, but I'm also sure that's a song they played all the time on the radio. So that's a fun memory for me, if you want a fun radio memory. Yeah.
Thanks for your input on the subject.
Oh, just one last one. I'm going to say one last thing. 1970s, and I remember there was that song by ABBA, Waterloo. Oh my God. And I remember everybody would have this fight because we didn't quite understand what the words were. And we'd get, no, that's what they said. No, that's what they said. No, that's what they said. And there's the song Waterloo, and that's all they played. They played Waterloo, I think, every 10 minutes. Waterloo, 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 Waterloo. Yeah, but 70s memory.
Mhm.